Hello and welcome to Rhino Bet's Cheltenham Festival preview with myself, Tracey, in the hosting seat, and I'm being joined by a star-studded panel because first and foremost, we have Rhino Bet sponsored jockey Henry Brooke. We also have top trainer Olly Murphy, of course, who's just on the back of a big Saturday winner as well as we record. We also have the Irish field journalist Mark Boylan, as well as Rhino Bet racing columnist Chris Lucky Loader. So as I say, a star-studded cast then for you to preview all 4 days of the greatest spectacle in horse racing. So guys, great that you can all join me. And of course, we're going to kickstart with day one. We're just going to get stuck straight into the action. And we're going to kick off with the Champion Hurdle. Now, of course, the biggest question, first and foremost, Constitution Hill. Now, Henry, we're recording Sunday night. He's going to have the further test tomorrow to see on his participation in the Champion Hurdle. So from a horse person perspective, how concerned are you that he's going to make the recovery in time to defend his crown?
Yeah, okay. Look, it's always hard, isn't it? One thing that a jockey really isn't is a trainer. So, Nicky Henderson will know what he's doing. But if he was as bad as he sounded like he was, he didn't sound good on the video that I heard. So he's obviously plenty of mucus, and just you'd obviously worry about what it's done if he's left a bit of onto his muscles or something like that. It's not ideal for any race going forward. Never mind a Champion Hurdle, but if he's going to run, then they're obviously happy with him. I don't think they'll run him if they're not happy.
No, exactly that. But I mean, Olly, just to go to you and again to throw this question to you, because this is going to be one of the biggest questions going on or stirring until the Cheltenham Festival, until we get a definite verdict on Constitution Hill's participation. But for you, how concerned would you be if that was the horse of yours?
Yeah, I suppose very concerned. I thought the concerning thing for me would be he hasn't run very much all year, and I wouldn't say the Stad's had an overly straightforward campaign thus far at home. Whether he'll run or not is obviously still remains to be seen, but listen, if he turns up, he's still going to be the one they all have to beat, and I don't think he'll be running now unless Nicky Henderson's 100% happy with him. So I think if he turns up, I think he's a massive price at 8 to 11. If he doesn't turn up, he's obviously got State Man's race to lose.
Yeah, and Chris, Olly's just mentioned it there about the prices now, where you can get 8 to 11 about Constitution Hill, but of course State Man in there now at 1 to 2. So is that kind of a price now that would be tempting you in, or how do you view how the markets have changed up from the news?
I personally probably wouldn't touch the race until we know what's going to happen, because there's just too many variables. Even if Constitution Hill did run and he's say 8 to 11, he's a horse that I wouldn't even want to back at that price. I was actually in the camp before all this blew up last week that if they both turned up all in one piece, I thought State Man might be able to take the scalp of Constitution Hill. I just think last year State Man didn't quite give his run in. Paul Townend and Willie Mullins said after the race they never felt like they had him spot on for the race. And I think if you go back and watch the start as well, that Constitution Hill won the race as soon as the tapes went up. Because to me, if State Man was to beat Constitution Hill, if they're both towards their best, I think State Man needs to be ridden more forward. If you look at what he does in Ireland, for example, he either makes the run in or he just tracks off the first horse making the run in. And I think that's State Man's greatest asset, is his turn of foot. And he was never really able to show that last year. And State Man has just improved all season, in my opinion. His form's pretty solid. He beat Bob Ollinger last time out, who's probably the third best hurdler this season behind Constitution Hill and State Man. So the form looks quite nice there. And if he was to run up to a rating of 175, say, I think that's within reason. And that would definitely pose a serious threat to Constitution Hill. Now, he might be able to shrug him off if he turns up and he's okay, but I don't think it was a foregone conclusion anyway if this hiccup hadn't happened. And I think State Man will win if Constitution Hill does turn up or not. I'm going to side with him, but the price has gone now. He's way too short, and I probably still wouldn't back him at odds on. I was kind of putting him up when he was 11-4 a couple of weeks ago, but now I couldn't really get involved with the prices. I'll just sit and watch.
This is probably the one person now that is actually frustrated by what's happened, because your price has actually gone when you were willing to take Constitution Hill on anyway, Chris. So I can feel your frustration through the screen here. I mean, Mark, how did you see this beforehand? And now, is it a race that you'd be touching from a betting perspective?
I think if I had one piece of advice maybe from a betting perspective is that at the moment most firms are 2 places each way in the thought there will be less than 8 runners. But if Constitution Hill doesn't run, I think you might get the 8 and you might get your 3 places on the day. So I think that if you did fancy something, for example, an Irish Point seems to be one they're going to leave till late to decide on. You know, if there was 3 places or 2, there's a big difference there, isn't there? Look, I'd be of the view, Kate, that if Constitution Hill rocks up here, you have an indication he's in good nick. I don't know whether he's brave enough to put my hand in my pocket to go and back him, but to touch on what Chris has said with Stateman last season, I did a preview of Paul Townend during the week, and he was of the view that after 2 furlongs, 2 hurdles last year, he knew he wasn't going to do any better than second. He felt the horse just wasn't taking him. So, you know, it was a different feeling. He said that he had got at other stages of the season. Personally, I would feel Constitution Hill is in a different league altogether. Stateman's a very good horse, could get closer. I don't think he beat him if Constitution Hill was on his game, but for me now, I'll just be watching, trying to see whether we get the 8, and if we did, maybe something like Irish Point for a sneaky each way.
Yeah, if Irish Point goes here instead of a Stayers Hurdle and Rob Course splits their 2 up, then in that sense, from an anti-post perspective, I really hope that doesn't happen, because I've got him for the Stayers Hurdle. So really hope that's not going to happen. Going to be a fascinating clash, though, all the same. Henry, if you had to nail your colours to a mass in terms of who you think is going to win this, from what we know at present, who wins it?
Oh yeah, definitely Constitution Hill for me. I don't think we've seen a horse in the jumping sphere that can do what he does. He seems to just travel with so much ease. He's just the only thing that he's always just a little bit. He's just kind of his jumping. He's just getting that bit braver. There's a couple of times like the last hurdle there last year. He's just on the cuff now. He is very brave. I watched a video of Nico schooling him. It was a good few weeks back now, and like he's on the cuff now. He's literally is just there. So that's always like would be a little bit of a concern with me watching him. But no, he looks like he's got an absolute unbelievable engine. We've never seen him come off the bridle. So yeah, it would. I don't think anything could get near him.
No, if he's at his best, let's say it's Constitution Hill that we expect, then I mean that price could look pretty big then. And Ollie, again, nailing colours to the mass here in terms of who you think's actually going to win, how you would see this race at present.
Yeah, very boring. I think Constitution Hill runs. You'll be seeing a healthy Constitution Hill, and he will win. If he doesn't run, obviously, looks a formality statement. We'll be picking up the pieces. But I thought from a non-runner no bet analysis now, I thought 8 to 11 Constitution Hill if he turns up could be a massive price. Then on the day now, if he turns up, I'll be gobsmacked if he goes off 8 to 11.
Yeah, completely. And like I said, I think that we're all on, well, apart from Chris, we're all on similar enough lines then here. Chris is just a complete outlier, but we appreciate that a lot then. But that is a look ahead to the Champion Hurdle as we record on Sunday evening, the 3rd of March. So again, all change may be occurring then tomorrow on the Monday on the results of his new test. Right, to the Supreme now, of course, that's going to kickstart the Cheltenham Festival when the Raw goes up with the tapes going up the first race. Now, the exchanges have been pointing us in one direction in terms of the favourite here with Ballyburn. But Mark, I'm going to throw this one to you. Are we to believe the exchanges when we're trying to play Willie Mullins bingo?
Oh, jeez, that's the hardest bingo to play, I'd say. But I think he'll run here if Willie Mullins feels it's the most important thing to get a winner on the board early, because this is the best novice hurdler we've got in Ireland to send over there. I think it's the best novice hurdler either side of the Irish Sea. I hope he does come here. He's probably bred to stay further. He's won over further, but God, he's got gears, this horse. He's pushed some decent horses away over 2 miles. I'd be very, very comfortable that if he runs here, he'll win. Tully Hill, he is a smart horse. He is improving. I think in terms of natural ability coming into this season, I gather the Mullins camp wouldn't have maybe had 1,000,000 miles between them, but his jumping just hasn't been totally up to scratch for me, and he's got a short turnaround to overcome. 23 days between Punchestown and Cheltenham if he does line up in the Supreme. And from looking back at, I suppose, records of horses trying that kind of layoff or shorter, I think since 2005 in a Supreme, bearing Bingham or Bartlett, you've had 115 horses try and only 2 have won. One of them was LeBake, who basically refused. So your strike rate is not high there. And even Willie, typically speaking, his record with hurdlers or chasers coming in that window to Cheltenham, it's about half the strike rate as you usually have on the whole with his runners over a longer layoff. So look at that. I think there's little holes you can pick with him. If Ballyburn did switch the one I'd like is Jericho de Repine. Form got a boost last time. I know he wasn't flashy, but that camp, when they do identify one, has been particularly smart. This guy was 4 or 5 to 1 for a Supreme earlier in the season. Now you're getting double the price potentially. I just feel that the fullness of time might show that he is a very, very decent animal, and that the pace of the race last time didn't really get to show him the best effect. But if Ballyburn does go here, I think Ballyburn will eat them all.
Yeah, that's what the general consensus I think about Ballyburn is, that he's something a little bit special, Chris. But how are you playing it?
Yeah, I think it'd probably be hard to oppose Ballyburn if he does turn up in the Supreme. For me, as Mark says, he's probably the best novice hurdler either side of the Irish Sea. Also, as well, the route he's taken coming from the Dublin Racing Festival, it's a well-trodden path in recent years. So he definitely fits the profile, and I think he's the most likely winner. I think, just to throw a couple of other names out there, Jericho de Repine, I agree with Mark. I think the form from Doncaster, the likes of Lumsum and Fiercely Proud, find it out in the Dovecote at Kempton weekend shows that it was a good race, and he did a lot of things wrong that day as well. He didn't look straightforward at all. And I think with Nico hopefully back on board, I think his insight on horses is just brilliant, and I think he would just be able to get a little bit more out of him. He kind of reminds me from John Bon a couple of years ago, because didn't he go into favouritism for the Supreme after he won at Newbury, a bit like John Bon, and he was getting grabbed. The form doesn't look much, only winning by small margins, but I could see him in a strongly run race running really well, so I wouldn't discount him. And also one other horse is Teller, the name for Ben Paulin. I really like this horse. It's got a lot of good form next to his name, especially when he won our sponsored race meeting back at Huntington in November. Keelan Woods got off and said he's probably the best horse he's ever ridden, and I think Ben Paulin's got probably the best novice hurdlers this season in England. He just seems to have one for every single division, and he did run a bit disappointingly at Aintree that day, but there was excuses for him. He bounced back last time out at Huntington. We've not seen him since. Ben Paulin's won novice hurdles before at Cheltenham with the likes of Willoughby Court. He knows what he's doing. Probably wouldn't be good enough to win, but I could definitely see him running a huge race, and I think he's run about 16 to 1 with Rhino each way. I think that's not bad value. So I think Teller, the name, could definitely run a big race.
There's a nice alternative. Like I say, you're keen on Ballyburn in terms of him taking a lot of beating, but 16 to 1, Teller, the name. And for a British horse as well, we're waving that tiny little Union Jack here ever so slightly. But Ollie, I mean, again, this is another race where this Supreme this year, I feel like we haven't really got a proper handle on it as such. And when we've got the current favourite, who's, I mean, the exchanges are telling us that he's going to go here, but of course he may still go for the 2.5. But it's not the easiest race to solve, I didn't think, this year.
No, I was on a panel with David Casey earlier in the week, and I think when he says wherever Ballyburn goes, he'll win, I think it's very hard to argue a case of what's going to beat him. You're saying we're waving our little Union Jack. Unfortunately, that is the case in this race. It's pretty embarrassing there. We've got 2 of the top 14 of the betting, I think, which I don't think would be good enough to trouble the best of the Irish, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm a big Ballyburn fan. I know Firefox beat him in a maiden at Fairy House first time. But listen, David Casey knows the time of day. Saying this horse, wherever he turns up to win, I'll take his word. And yeah, I think this horse will get the Irish off to a fly.
Yeah, he's not one for overly eulogising either, is he? So if he says something like that, you should probably take note as well then with David Casey. Who needs him as an extra panellist? We can just get quotes from other days. So thanks for that one, Ollie. Henry, so Jericho de Repine, I mean, the guys have touched on him as well in his form. People were dubious a little bit about it. It has had the boost. But again, Willie Mullins, though, he's dominating the head of this market. So who do you think comes out on top?
Yeah, definitely, Kate. Look, if Ballyburn turns up, as we've stated, you know, he's going to win wherever he goes. I don't know where Mystical Power's confirmed of running yet. Do you know?
Mystical Power, we're pretty sure that he's going to go the 2.5 by the looks of the exchange.
If they happen to run Ballyburn in the 2.5, they obviously wouldn't really run him in that, would they? They wouldn't take. These two will miss each other. So. I thought he was a big each way price if Ballyburn didn't actually go here, but Like we say, Ballyburn's going to win wherever he runs. So it'll be just a case of missing him if he does.
Yeah, I know that's what we're expecting here. But he is, of course, Henry. I just want to throw this back to you of like such a heavy-headed horse, and just a general question, really, about if you've got a horse that is as keen as Ballyburn has shown that he has been in his career so far, but a horse that maybe would probably be better ability-wise over 2.5, but because they're kind of headstrong, what would you do with a horse like that? Would you prefer to ride them over 2 miles just to help that keenness, or would you prefer to use their bit of stamina?
Yeah, it's different in Ireland. They race a lot different than we do. They don't seem to have as much pace early on in a race as we do over here. So I do think Cheltenham will just play to his strengths. I mean, they'll just go that bit quicker. Whatever race he runs in, it'll just help him. He'll just help him just settle a little bit easier. Just because they'll be going that bit quicker. But like, it's funny because it doesn't matter what they're going to run him in. You know, like he's very versatile, and he's 1 over 2.5. He's 1 over 2. So kind of he's however which way you look at it, he's going to be a very hard horse to beat on the day.
Yeah, so I think, again, we're all in. There's a lot of agreement going on so far, 2 races, and we're all generally in a lot of the consensus there that Ballyburn's going to take a lot of beating, and he has been back during the week as well then for the Supreme. Now, a real big question mark that we've also got in the first day is, of course, the Arkle chase, because your current favourite still is Marine National. He is clinging on to that favouritism here, but big question marks over him. And Ollie, I want you to lead off on this one, please, because Marine National, he disappointed somewhat the last day. If it comes up as soft ground for the festival, given all the rain that we've had of late, and that seems to be his real Achilles heel, I mean, is that going to cast a massive shadow of doubt over Marine National's chances?
Yeah, interesting, Kate. I wasn't blown away with this horse when he won a beginner's chase first time out this year. I thought the race worked out average. I know he was very good last year. He's obviously coming off the back of a very poor performance the last day in Leopardstown, and he obviously hasn't had the ideal preparation. Barry Collins obviously beating his chest and doing the same as he did last year, saying he can't be beat. But yeah, I don't think this horse has the most ideal preparation. He had a very hard race the last day, and yeah, I think he's vulnerable. I'd be looking to take him on now, and win, rain or snow, I don't think he won't run. I can't see this horse not turning up, but I like Gordon's horse in this, Founder 50. He's battle hardened, he's tough. He gets down and dirty, and I could just see this lad really thrown up to the favourite now.
Yeah, and he is second in at the minute on the back of that second place finish behind Il Était Temps, who's actually then a bigger price than him. So those two, I think the market's agreeing with you, Ollie, on that basis. But Chris, so Ollie is willing to take on Marine National at the head of the market because of those question marks. Found 50 for Ollie. But again, we've got question marks all over the shop for this race.
Yeah, since he blew out at the Dublin Racing Festival, it's been a bit of a head scratcher, to be honest with you. I think Il Est Temps, I think people have thought maybe that win was a little bit of a fluke, but he was quite well backed on the day, I think. And
yeah, he really was, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he's a horse that we should be writing off here. I mean, he could even go favourite, I think. Once people start seeing Willie Mullins actors with the likes of Ballyburn and maybe State Man, if Constitution Hill doesn't run, they'll be looking, what's the other horses Willie's running on the card? Let's stick him in an acca. And with all the liabilities racking up, we could definitely see him going off the short price. I think he could go off around about 9-4, 5-2. I really like the way he won last time out, showed a really good battling attitude. He's got the stamina as well for a little bit further. So if it does turn into a stamina test over the trip, I think he can go well. I quite like JPR1 as well. I think he's a horse definitely on this side of the Irish Sea that's probably our best 2-mile novice chaser. I really like the way he battled to win at Lingfield last time out. He was a little bit idle up the home straight, but I think he's a horse that he's got some engine, and Henry might be able to talk a little bit more about him because it looked like he was going to win at Cheltenham, and then Henry picked up the pieces on Non-Public back in the November meeting, wasn't it? So yeah, he's definitely a horse that that I think is maybe a little bit underestimated here, and I think he's got a live chance of going close. So for me, I think Ilay Tomp's probably my main selection, but I'll probably also as well have a saver on JPR1. I think he's a horse that's he's very good, and he's one that maybe I think could maybe surprise a few people. So yeah, for me, he's probably my other fancy in the race.
Yeah, and if you can get about 11 to 1 then about him at the time of recording, then that would be very nice. Right, Henry, we'll throw that to you then. Would you have got him on public when he unseated in that grade 2 back at Cheltenham? You can be honest.
Yeah, no chance. The race was done and over. He just jumped the last nearly too well and just buckled on landing. It showed you what an engine he has. To go and wing a last like that, he just landed a bit steep and just didn't get his landing gear out. And I got Home Public's followed up again this weekend, so he's a decent horse in his own right as well. So I think I totally agree with Chris as well. JPR1 is flying the flag for the British in this race. I don't think it's a tricky race to analyse because there's a lot of question marks on a lot of horses. Gaelic Warrior obviously unseated the last day, but he was stuffed at the time. He just run for me poor when he beat elite attempts. Like he did it in a canter, so obviously the horse wasn't right the last day. Whether they found anything amiss or what, I don't know. But there's a lot of question marks in the race. But JPR1 has not done anything wrong in any of his races. He's a tough, hardened horse, and I don't think they wouldn't go riding him like they did at Cheltenham. I think there was just no pace. That's I think the reason he popped him out that day. But I don't think he'll be doing that again. He took a lead the last day and he did it nicely. So I think they might go for that.
Okay, so you're jumping on the JPR bandwagon. Like I say, you gave him a nice form boost there at the weekend as well. And Mark, all of the guys have said there about the question marks in here and probably just taking that more of a solid approach and more of a consistent type. But which angle were you going in with?
I can understand that, and I think probably the fact that Marine National is still favoured after a run like he had last time tells you there's just a lack of a standout candidate to take him on. Just interesting enough, some in the camp have just got the vibe that they felt Marine National last time, before he even got out there onto the track, that he wasn't quite the same horse on the day for whatever reason. A couple of judges that I'd regard in terms of paddock visual sort of thing, they didn't feel that if they saw, you wouldn't have fancied him going to post on your basically was the message I would have got from them guys. And I'm not buying the ground thing totally because, this horse has won a Royal Bond on soft ground, but the wind thing maybe would carry over your head, having come into the season with the wind up, tongue tie on. In contrast to that, you could look back at the last 10 British train winners of the Champion Chase. We don't have wind up data for the Irish horses generally. The last 10 British horses to win the Champion Chase all had the wind up at some stage. You can get top 2 milers that have this bit of a wind issue, but when you watch how this horse carried his head even early on in his career at Punchestown, he does actually. It looks worse on soft ground. It looks worse when he's getting beaten, but he has been doing this to a little degree and just carrying a little bit upwards. At 9-4, I don't know. If you said to me, Kate, there's a free bet for you, you can back something in the Arkle. I'm happy to back Marine National, but to put your own hand in your pocket and say, look at this race and say there's 28 races you can make money on at Cheltenham. This is not the one I'm ringing the Credit Union manager for and saying I have a good idea. So look, if you're gun to head, I'd give Marine National another chance because there is a lack of opposition to him. And I thought Christmas was fine. Ollie wasn't totally impressed. I thought he was really good, and he did it in a faster time than Dino Blue. That was a grade 1, half an hour later with Gentleman to Me going good and hard. So I was happy with that. But it's a race that could have you heading to the Arkle bar now rather than trying to solve the Arkle if you're there in the Tuesday.
I'll meet you there, so I will already be setting up my pitch. So yeah, you know where to find me on those days. Yeah, and good luck getting that free bet out of me as well. That was very wishful thinking. This is hypothetically speaking, of course, then what Mark is saying there. But I know I love this horse. I want him to return back to the supreme horse of last year, but he does cast a doubt though over him all the same. So again, more question marks in the Arkle. Now, in our race previews, we're going to be focusing on 3 of the main races of the day, and then we're going to throw it open to the lads then to give us anything from any of the other races, because of course on day 1 we also have the Ultima, the Mares Hurdle, the Boodles Juvenile Hurdle, and the National Hunt Challenge Amateur Jockeys Novices Chase as well. But Ollie, it only feels right to go to you first, please, for the Boodles, because you seem to have a very live chance with Roaring Legend.
Yeah, I think it's a good each way chance, Kate. I hope we have a real dry week. Probably hasn't had the most ideal of preparations. He was second to Caliph de Burley, first come out in Kempton, who obviously went on and won the graded race there last Saturday. We were then second to Leary up in Musselburgh when getting a torrid run round and coming home far too late. And to get qualified, I had very, very few choices and ended up having to go and run at Market Raise. And 2 weeks ago, or 10 days ago, in fact, on extremely heavy ground and kind of hack round sprinted. He missed the last and actually ended up finishing fourth. He got beat at fours on that day, so I'm sure plenty of people look at that and think, how can this lad win or be competitive in the Boodles? But that race certainly wasn't run to suit. Hopefully he has a dry week now weather-wise, and he'll be dropped in. He's a horse who wants to come off a strong pace, and if he's seen the better effect in a better race than running them in a worse race, if that makes sense. So hopefully they'll go hard. Hopefully there's no rain, and with a bit of luck, he's a mutual chance.
Yeah, he's a really likeable horse. I think he's about 25s at the time of recording again there. But yeah, really like we've got all that experience as well from the flat, which will hopefully stand him in good stead in that big hustle and bustle that is always a big field in the Fred Winter, the Boodles Juvenile Handicap Hurdle. But yeah, Roaring Legend then for Ollie. Henry, go to you then. Anything from any of the rest of these races on day one? Oh, you're on mute. We got you.
It's all the crying going on here with the kids.
I can hear it.
Back that out for when we're talking. Sorry. So obviously can't not mention Lossy Mouth, can we? In the Mares Hurdle. Obviously, she looks like a little bit of an Annie Power coming again, doesn't she? That kind of profile. So I obviously think she'll win, but Love Envoy, for me, is a massive each-way bet to just pick up the pieces and be in the free for sure. She was beat 9 lengths the last day by her. She doesn't have to improve much. If they get the same run, I just think she's a massive price at she 10s or maybe bigger. So, yeah, I thought Love Envoy, Lossy Mouth, looked interesting kind of combination.
Definitely for that Mares Hurdle there, yeah. I mean, Lossy Mouth, a really short price favourite, but you're getting a really nice each way price about Love Envoy to basically do at least what she did last year and finishing second in the Mares Hurdle. Chris, to you next then. Anything from anywhere else?
Yeah, I'll try and keep it short and sweet if that's possible, because I do have a few other fancies. Henry obviously mentioned the mares there. Lossy Mouth is a horse I actually want to take on. I'm a bit concerned about her stepping up in trip to the 2.5 miles. To me, she's an all-out speed horse. And I'm always a little bit worried about horses that come from their juvenile campaign and then they take on their elders. I know she won last time out at Cheltenham, but to me, I think she wasn't beat in... She didn't pull up any trees there. She beat horses that I think she was probably entitled to beat from her form last season. And she's just a horse that I think that stepping up in trip, she might find this a tough test. And you've got some decent mares in here. Henry mentioned Love Envoy. I think Ashray Diamonds are worthy average 3. Henry de Bromhead's also got some good mares as well, in the likes of Hispanic Moon. I've been quite impressed with her. I'm not sure if they're going to go. Magical Zoe, Tell Me Something Go. I think there's a few mares in there that, if they're on their A game, they'll definitely run a big race. And we know that some of those actually stay the trip where Lossy Mouth doesn't. So that's the big argument for me. So I'm quite keen to take her on in the mares, and I think you could have a few darts at taking her on. In the Ultima, I quite like Annual Invictus. He might not be good enough to win, but I was really taken by the bride that Freddie Gordon gave him when he won the Great Yorkshire Chase at Doncaster that day. The form has worked out with Forward Plan, winning at Kempton last weekend. He's £2 lower than when he ran in the Kinmure last year, and he loved Cheltenham as well. I think he's won over hurdles and fences in his time for Chris Gordon. So he's a horse that I'll be keeping on side. And Kilbeg King as well. I'm not sure a lot of the Irish form for the National Hunt Chase is all that, whereas I quite like Kilbeg King, and I think he's got more to come. Anthony Honeyball had second in the race in 2018 with Miss Poitras. And I think, even though obviously he's a gelding, he's a horse that could maybe give him another least placed effort in the race. He's a horse that he's ran about 12 to 1, I think, with Rhino. I think he's probably the best British hope, and I think he's got some untapped potential over those stamina trips. So for me, he's a horse I'll be watching out for as well on the day.
Nicely done. And a few extra darts then, and also taking on short price favourites, which we always like. So Chris has got us off to a good start then with that. Mark, what about these other races? What do you fancy?
I'll have to stay on the call with Chris for a few minutes after and see what price he gives you at Loxymouth, because I think she'll be very, very hard to beat. But but there will be betting without potential there. Even something like Gala Marceau, who was right up her backside on a few occasions last season, beat her at Epperson last season. She's 16-1. Maybe she'll be a betting without proposition. But I'm not coming here to tip Irish horses all even. I promise you that, even though we're coming from that side of the water, I think Giovinco, I'd be really hoping they run him in the Ultima as opposed to the graded options. I think he's got kind of Cora Grambler vibes for the Cinder Russell. And, this horse, really, really smart over hurdles last season, loved the campaign. This season, the running in Stay Away Faye, really encouraging that he could be well able to win off a mark in the 140s. And then, going right-handed at Kempton, just read it to suit him at Christmas. And definitely, you can't jump out to your left when you have Ile France winging fences like an aeroplane in front. And he was doing that repeatedly. I just think, for all that it was an egg and spoon race he won last time, at 12 or 14-1 about him in the Ultimate, I'd be really hoping to let him have a stab at that.
Nicely done again there. So yes, that was nice also for you to be talking about a British horse, Mark. We always appreciate the token gesture. So thank you so much for that. Right, that's the end of day one then, our Cheltenham preview, of course. Rhino Bets at Cheltenham preview. But make sure you stay tuned then for day two, coming your way very shortly.